Hey, what's up guys? This video is part 2 for section A6, which is solving a quadratic equation, and you will have a quadratic trinomial. So I'm going to show you guys how to solve. My previous video shows you how to factor, and that's what we need. So make sure you guys check that out before this video so you know how to factor, and then you can start solving. So let's go ahead and look at what we need to use to solve. One of the properties that we are going to use is called the zero product property. The property says that if you guys have the factors of a quadratic equation, you guys can start solving by using the property of zero. So let me explain what that is. And my previous videos, I also talked about this property, but this is just a reminder so you guys know what we're looking for. Our goal is to get two parentheses or two polynomials. It might be a monomial times a binomial or a binomial times a binomial. But you guys will get two multiplying each other. So we have two binomials equal to 0. And you guys will get the first binomial equal that to 0, and you make an equation x plus 5 equal to 0, so we have an x plus 5 here, and you guys will get the second binomial x plus 2, and you guys will equal that to 0, x plus 2 equal to 0. Why can we do that? So the zero product property says that if you guys are multiplying two expressions or two numbers and we know the answer is 0, well, one of them has to be 0. We don't know which one, but we can equal the first one to 0, or we can equal the second one to 0. When you guys have those equations, you can start solving. So the quadratic equation we are going to do today is a quadratic trinomial. Notice this one is not factored because you guys do not have the parentheses, and it doesn't look like this here. This is factored. So we're going to have to factor, and then we're going to have to find those two answers. Why two answers? Because we have a quadratic. The degree is 2. Degree tells you guys how many answers you guys will have. If you look at the linear equation over here, the degree is 1, exponent is 1, so you guys have one answer. Quadratic, exponent is 2, the degree is 2, the highest exponent is 2, so you guys have two answers. So we are going to factor, we are going to use the zero product property, and then we can solve. So let's look at some examples. So this one here, you guys have two different equations. They're quadratic equations because they have an x squared. And the first one is already set up to use the zero product property. X squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. But in order to use the full property, we must have that trinomial factor because we need to know what numbers are or what expression are multiplying to get 0. So I am going to factor this trinomial first, x squared minus 7x plus 12. So I'm going to do the diagram here. I'm going to multiply the a 1 times the 12. That's going to be 12. My middle term is negative 7. I'm going to find those two numbers that multiply to negative 12, and they add up to negative 7. So I have a negative 3 times a negative 4. That's going to be positive 12. And negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. And the tip I gave you guys in the previous video, if you guys have a positive number here, the signs have to be the same for the factors. And if this number is negative, they have to be negative. Negative and negative. Negative times a negative will be positive. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. Now you guys are going to write down your factors. So we do have my two binomials here equal to 0. I'm going to take my x value, ax. So I'm going to put an x and an x. I'm going to bring down the factors, minus 3 and the minus 4, and that's already factored. Now we can use the zero product property because we know that when we multiply these two expressions, it equals to 0. So we can set those, each one of them equal to 0. So I'm going to take the first one, x minus 3, and I'm going to put that equal to 0. Or your answer, the second one, is going to be x minus 4, and you're going to equal that to 0. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides over here, plus 3, cancels. So you guys will have an x equals, so let me just put the x equals here to positive 3. And over here, guys, you are going to add 4 to both sides, cancels. So we have an x equals positive 4. Once you guys have those two answers, you're going to put them inside a bracket. because that's how you write down your set of solutions, your answers, when you have a quadratic equation. And we have the 3 and the 4 here. So my two answers, because it's a quadratic equation, 3 and 4. Now I want you guys to look at the actual values up here and the binomials and your answer. We have an x minus 3, we have x equals positive 3. X minus 4, we have an x equals positive 4. So there's kind of like a shortcut you can use. When you guys have an x with a 1 next to it, a 1x inside of the parentheses, in order to solve, all you have to do, guys, is change the sign of the number inside. And you put x equals, change the sign, positive 3. Over here, you change the sign, x equals, and you change to positive 4. So that's just a tip, another shortcut I can show you guys. Now, this one, we have an x squared minus 6x equals 27 is not equal to 0. So that's one of the things you guys have to have when you want to use the zero product property. You must have the trinomial or the polynomial, everything to one side, and it has to equal to 0. So I am going to take this number, the 27, to the other side. I'm going to do the opposite. So I am going to subtract 27 here and here. So I'm going to have an x squared minus a 6x minus a 27 equal to 0. Now I'm ready to factor. So that's what we are doing. We are solving by factoring. So I'm going to put the big diagram here. I'm going to multiply the a value, the one with the x squared, 1 times negative 27. That is negative 27. My b value is the one in the middle, negative 6. So negative 6 goes here. And you guys find those two numbers that multiply to negative 27, and you guys get negative 6. So we get negative 9 and 3. Negative 9 times 3 is negative 27, and negative 9 plus 3 is negative 6. Now you guys set up your two factors. So we have one binomial. I'm going to bring the x and the x. Remember, we use the ax right here, the 1x. We don't need that 1 next to the x. You bring down your factors, minus 9 here, positive 3 over here, equal to 0. Now, the shortcut, guys, remember, if you guys have a 1x inside of the parentheses in the binomial, a 1x, all you have to do is change the signs inside of the parentheses. So my first answer is going to be positive 9. You guys change the sign, a minus to a positive. And my second answer will be x equals negative 3. You guys change the sign positive to a negative. So my set of solutions, remember, we need brackets here, negative 3 and 9. It's always nice to have those numbers in order from lowest to highest. So the lower number on the left side right here, and the highest number on the right side. Doesn't matter if you guys have those numbers switch. You can have the 9 first and the negative 3 second. I don't mind, but some textbooks, they always put everything in order, and you always count from lowest to highest. Okay, so that is factoring and solving using the zero product property. Right, so let's just try a couple more just to practice here. You guys do have a trinomial. You want to solve the equation, and you guys must have a 0 on one side. So this negative 42, you guys take it to the other side. I'm going to add 42 to both sides, right here and right here. Notice these are not like terms here, so I'm not going to combine anything. I'm just going to put the x squared plus 17x plus 42 equal to 0. You guys are going to put your diagram. You're going to multiply a times 42, so that's going to be 42. 17 is going to be your b value, so that's 1 in the middle. And you guys find two numbers that multiply to 42, and they combine to 17. And that's going to be 3 times 14. When you multiply 3 times 14, that's going to be 42. And when you guys add 3 plus 14 is 17. So you guys are going to put your two factors. So x plus 3, that's 1. And the second one is x plus 14, that's the second one, equal to 0. And you guys solve. So the first x is going to equal negative 3. Remember, you change the sign because the x value has a 1, so I can do that. And over here, the x value has a 1 as well. So x equals negative 14. So my set of solutions, we have the brackets here, negative 14, and negative 3. And the next one, guys, y squared equals 90 plus 13y. I do notice that I don't have a 0, so I must have everything on one side and equal to 0. Here's another tip for you guys to use. If you see the ax term or the one with the squared, in this case we have a y squared, if it's positive, don't do anything to this term because you want to keep that positive. If you put a negative, you're going to have to factor out the negatives. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid negatives. So I'm going to take this term to the left side, this term to the left side, and equal everything to 0. So let's get rid of the 13y first. I'm going to do the opposite, minus 13y here. So I'm going to have a y squared minus 13y, and we're going to equal this to 0. Now I'm going to subtract 90 from both sides right here. And we don't have like terms here, so I'm not going to combine anything. I'm just going to put them side by side. Y squared minus 13y minus 90 equal to 0. And I'm going to factor. So I'm going to put the diagram. Here's the a value. 1 times negative 90. That's negative 90 here. Negative 13 is your b value. So I put that on the bottom. And I find those two factors that multiply to negative 90 and add up to or combine to negative 13. And the two factors that work are negative 18 and positive 5. Negative 18 times 5, that's negative 90. And negative 18 plus 5 is negative 13. So they do work. So now you guys are going to write your factors. So I have a y, I'm going to use a y, minus 18, and y plus the 5. So notice we have a y and a y, and then you bring down the factors equal to 0, and then you guys solve. So we have y equals to positive 18, you guys change the sign, and y equals to negative 5. You guys change the signs. Positive becomes a negative becomes a positive. We can do this because the variable y has a 1, variable y has a 1 in front of it. So my sets will be negative 5 and 18. And that is, those two numbers are my solutions. Alright guys, this concludes my video for solving quadratic equations when you have a quadratic trinomial and we are solving by factoring. So if you guys like my videos, make sure you guys hit that button, like button, and if you guys want to subscribe, also you can subscribe to my channel, and make sure you guys practice, and I'll see you guys later.